Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. And life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need. Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. No Jen this week, because she's off doing silly work things. I'm Brian, and joining me as usual is Henno.
Hola.
So, hey, what's going on?
Not too much. We were just chatting on Salty Language a couple nights ago.
Yeah. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out.
It out.
Good fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sass it. That may be too much.
All right. I'll dial it back a little.
This isn't Salty Language. You can't put as much sass into things on this show.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Staying corrected.
Jeez, man. Come on. What are we, savages?
No.
Yes, we
We're
are.
different. We're different here on the Crazy Life.
That's right. We're more calm and respectful and such.
It's like who Brett Kavanaugh thinks he is versus who he really is. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry, everybody.
No, you didn't. No one saw it. No one heard anything. So how's your week been, even though I know most of it?
Actually, I did have something interesting happen last night.
Well, good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it's 10:30 and I'm like, I'm kind of tired. I think I'm going to go to bed. And the phone was on my desk, and all of a sudden I hear the text message come through, and it starts to ring. So I'm like, okay, that's the answering service. So I get over there, check this text message, and one of my coworkers has answering service has me paged because somebody wants a wellness check. And so I'm like, okay, so I text Heidi and I'm like, shouldn't the police, like,
nah, it's fine.
Because and the thing about it is that the person she's very kind, she's very generous, and I knew her daughter was at her unit, and her daughter, I knew her daughter was young. I have no, like college age, whatever. And I finally was like, and I thought about it. I'm like, okay, if the police go, they can't get in. What are they going to do? They're going to kick the door in, and I'm going to be spending an hour fixing a door tomorrow, or whatever. So I'm like, I'll just go. So I get up there, knock on the door, nothing. On my way up, I get another text from Jameen because I called her, and she's like, her name's May. She's 21, and I'm like, okay, 21. Away from the folks, having a little getaway, probably from college at that, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, well, if she's anything like me, she just doesn't want to be bothered and is probably hammered.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, second scenario, maybe a boy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got up there that I was like, I hope she doesn't have a gun. I have to go in. But I honestly was like, you know what? I do want to make sure that she's fine. So I get up there, knock on the door, nothing. Okay, go get the keys. And Jimmy's like, just walk on in. And I'm like,
oh, you didn't kick the door in?
No, I decided not to. Yeah. Why make myself some work,
Yeah. But I mean, you had an opportunity to kick a door in.
It's true. With the authority. Yeah.
Yeah. Would have been weird to explain maybe.
A little bit. Especially since I have access to master keys.
Right, but, right. Like they were all the way over there.
So I crack the door, like, hello, blah, blah, and I'm walking in, lights are on and everything. And I finally walk into, the master bedroom, and there she is on the bed. I'm seeing a lot of leg, and I'm like, okay, now it's starting to realize that maybe I shouldn't have walked into a room of a 21-year-old girl by myself.
Yeah, that's
with the way things are these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyhow, I got her attention. She was like, there was a bottle of tequila on the table. You could just smell it. The room just reeked. And I got her attention. She pops up and she's like, she's hilarious. Actually, she's laughing a lot. And I'm like, your mom? She's like, I know. I'm like, and she's like, not making it. I'm like, well, you want to text your mom? She's just grabs her laptop, starts the movie back up. I'm like, would you like me to text your mother? She's like, can you? I'm like, okay, what are we going to say? I found you asleep. You mumbled a little. Okay. And then like a minute later, mom called. And so I sat there. I was like, this is not a child. Yes, it's her daughter, but this is an adult as well. I'm not going to start getting in anyone's business. I just said, I found her. She was asleep. We had a quick conversation. She's fine. I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
And I left it at that. She's like, oh my gosh, she has insomnia. She must have taken something. I'm like,
she did?
She must have taken something.
Half a bottle of tequila.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
At one point, the first thing she did, which I know she's a true, like she's on the journey, when the first thing she did when she came to was reached over and drank down whatever was left in the glass. And she's like, that is disgusting. And I'm like, hey, I didn't make it. You did.
Yeah, right.
So I was just like, you seriously owe me one.
That's also really trusting, because you don't know if someone put something in a glass there. And I don't mean like a roofie or something, but just like they could have just put some disgusting concoction in there just to mess with you, Like wake up, you're like, oh, I'm so thirsty. And next thing you're drinking shoe polish or something. I don't know.
So the next, I got into work today and I'm like, I'm not turning this into office gossip, but I will share it on a podcast so the world can know.
Sure. I'll call it in anonymously. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just so like, it literally wasn't until today where I was like, I probably should have called the police department.
Yeah.
And gone in with them because.
Yeah. 'Cause you could have met him there, I guess, let him in and
because my word against hers.
Yeah.
And now, granted, Jameen knows me. I believe, she would support me, but I don't know.
You never know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the other one was just like, I was like, do I feel a little bad that I didn't tell Jameen that she had a bottle? I'm like, you know what? That's none of my business. That's her, that's if May wants to tell her, she'll tell her.
Yeah.
If Mom wants to know, she'll know.
Well, and I mean, and also you were told that she was 21, correct?
Oh yeah.
So she's of legal age. It'd be different if you were told she was 18 or something, Exactly. It's like now there's some gray area there. You need to, are you the cool uncle or are you no?
Yeah, and it was kind of fun, and I'm glad I did, and but it was just one of those little out of the blue kind of strange things, the next day where I'm like, because one of the things that I do want to I wouldn't mind getting more into doing more concierge stuff there. It beats the heck out of, beating myself up, digging ditches and stuff. And if I am, there's a certain amount of, you help people with things that you ordinarily wouldn't, oh, this isn't a maintenance, it's like, no.
Right. Like digging ditches in the middle of the night. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Not asking questions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of that was my little bit of excitement. Oh, and the other excitement was my mom got a hold of me and said that she wants to buy us some appliances. So big shopping trip down to Twin Falls on Saturday. Whew, yeah, bought some toilet paper, some paper towels, and looked at ovens.
That's some exciting stuff, man.
Yeah. We had a romantic day. Actually, we did. If you go onto Facebook, you'll see linked some pictures of us. We went by. There's still waterfalls going. And for those of you who might remember the name Evel Knievel, so where Twin Falls is where he tried to fire a rocket launch over the Snake River. But it's the Peregrine, the bridge, and people. It's really cool. People do a lot of bungee jumping and base jumping off of it, and there's a golf course down underneath it, kind of below it, so you can drive down there and we get played in some waterfalls and check that out. It's kind of a nice little day. Yeah, and then
I kind of feel like even if it was just you guys going like oven shopping, I feel like you and Sharon would still like, even if you were making fun of the whole process, I feel like you guys would still make a fun day of it.
Yeah, I had we had a great time.
Yeah. Because I know that's kind of what I would do with it is, basically openly mock it, but also get done what you need to get done,
Yeah. It was a nice little travel for the day, because the idea was to get up early and go to this really cool breakfast spot up by the lakes up north it's about an hour north. But I was up a little late the night before doing a podcast.
What kind of jerk keep you up late? See, I caught myself.
Who would do that? Yeah. It's like I said, we had a romantic trip to toilet paper. There was none in the house.
Man.
Yeah.
So
plus, I like Target.
So when you get to the store, like you get to Target, right?
Yeah.
Were you there just for toilet paper, or were you there for other stuff?
It was seriously, I was going to do toilet paper, paper towels, Lysol, and Arm & Hammer refrigerator deodorizer things, and that was it.
I'm just picturing people seeing you carrying that stuff through there. They're like, wow, something crazy's going on in his house.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote a tweet about that a long time ago that was like, I love seeing the frequency, or basically like, the urgency at which people pick out toilet paper at the store, like to where they grab it and how fast they go to the checkout. When it's all they get, I've seen so many people run over and grab like a 4-pack of toilet paper and just haul it to the registers, and you're like, either them or somebody's having an emergency, kind of a situation. Or if you see them grab the big pack, they'll take their time a little more. It's like, okay, they're setting up for the long haul. But, Yeah, because I was down that aisle one day at Kroger, and I'm looking at paper towels, they're on the same aisle, and there was a woman that just came running in, grabbed like, it was seriously like a 4 or a, 8 6-pack, whatever. It was a smaller pack, and just ran up to the express lane, which luckily for her was open at the moment,
Yeah.
So, and then I saw her run out to her car.
Oh, not good.
I was like, oh man, I hope she makes it. That's all I can say. And
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and jeans. I bought jeans.
Mm-hmm. See, that adds to it. That's even better. If you're buying toilet paper and jeans at the same time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Something soiled.
Right.
There's some disinfecting needed. And it stinks.
Like you bring all that up and they're like, are you sure you don't need trash bags? Like,
don't judgment face me.
Yeah. Or
don't
matches.
Target judgment me.
Right. Oh man.
This is a judgment free zone.
Mm-hmm. See, I like your target list is way better than Neil and Annalise's. Sorry. Yours is almost that game that people talk about online where it's like, you go buy like 3 or 5 things that you feel will make the person doing the, the cashier look at you weird.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I guarantee the Twin Falls Target is far more exciting than that Napa Valley Target.
Probably.
At least as far as people watching goes.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet you the ones here are even more interesting.
Oh, I bet. For sure. Yeah, and I got a win for the week, and that was the whole, today was the council meeting for where, they were going to, my friend Colleen was stepping down and I wanted to go to it, but I was like, nah. And it's kind of fun to be in a neutral place about something that could be very exciting and to just let process.
Yeah.
Rather than when something comes along whether it's a job offer or something like that, or it could be a relationship thing. It could be, who knows what it could be, any sort of a business decision or whatever. And you can either just let process happen, or you could try to sell it and make it happen. And it was just nice to kind of disconnect myself and just go, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And everyth's okay no matter what.
Yeah. Right.
And I like that, usually when something, it's so easy to make such a big deal out of decisions and then put so much into it and end up being, just where your time is absorbed by it, regardless of whether it ends in disappointment or not, and that kind of thing. And it's nice to just kind of feel neutral about it, which is good. I like that spot.
That is really good that you weren't trying to, you're not trying to, force it into reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Just stay out of the outcome. It's so much. Life is better when I stay out of outcomes.
Yeah. Right. You've said that before. You're right. Yeah. Just let it come. Yeah. That's pretty
How have your last couple days been?
Pretty uneventful. Just trying to think if I've done anything. Not really. I haven't done a whole lot. Yeah, really, I haven't done anything, man. It's weird sometimes, like you don't realize how little you've done, and then when you look back and you're like, wow, I really haven't gotten much accomplished.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, obviously, we did the podcast a few days ago, so that was that, but, yeah, that's really been about it. I've just dinked around on the computer mostly, and I've been reading quite a bit of stuff, listening to a bunch of podcasts, because I've been really trying to put the effort into doing 2 things, which is read more, which right now it's just reading comic books, but the goal is also to do some, like novel reading or, real book reading, like an adult. And the other is, but I've been listening to a lot of podcast trying to catch up because again, I'm as usual forever behind. But I'm also trying to make room on my iPad for more, so I can put more comics on. So, and podcasts take up the most room on my iPad. So, get rid of those and then I'll be all set. So yeah, I've been doing a whole lot of that. And I actually, last night, I think I may have hit a point to where I've listened to so many that have so much like info and different stuff in them that I almost think I either need to kind of sit and unpack all of that, or I need to just listen to mindless like comedy ones for a while.
No, for a while,
because I think my brain is full. Basically, like when we were in Chicago when we got done at the art museum and we were like full. Like I think I'm there. Done. Like for the moment, I think I may have to step away from the Tim Ferriss shows and Hidden Brain and all these other like, learning and behavioral type things. So, but, I really like that kind of stuff is the problem, and I think as a result, I've been like, ooh, this looks good. Ooh, this one, ooh, Yeah. So, but it's been pretty good. And, a minor win for me is recognizing that, not trying to go past that point, like seeing, hey, I need to make a change here because I realize that I may be mentally exhausting myself, and that's no bueno. Yeah. So, we'll start there and see what happens after that. But because I've got a lot of comedy ones that I haven't listened to and various other ones that aren't, that are more like storytelling ones and, just ones you can listen to without, really paying attention to, or sometimes I'll take notes when I'm listening and look stuff up afterward or while I'm listening. And, it's weird because it's almost like I'm doing homework, even though I'm not. What I'm really trying to do, I mean, I'm learning is what I'm doing. I'm just trying to, something will pique my interest. And I'm very much the type that if I have to do something to, like, if I write it down, then I can go look it up later. Because if I don't, it'll just keep eating at my head and I won't pay attention to what I'm trying to pay attention to. Or it'll trigger a thought, which triggers a different thought and that are totally unrelated to what I'm listening, so, knowing that I use these, use ways like writing things down, or I'll just go into Google real quick and type in whatever the topic is, and I'll just bring that up so that at some point I'll see that tab open and go, oh yeah, I wanted to look at,
I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I actually did that with, what we're going to talk about in a little bit here. I did that a couple days ago when I wanted to look that up because I told you I was listening to a podcast and the idea of this came up and I was like, ooh, I immediately pulled it up real quick and then went back to listening because I didn't want to miss the conversation that was going on. Because, if I start reading and getting in deep into that, my brain starts blocking out noises around me, which kind of sucks. When I was younger, I used to read and listen to music at the same time. And I mean, I could retain, and you could have given me a quiz about whatever I just read and I could pass it, no problem. Now I can't do both at the same time. I have to listen to, if I'm listening to music, it has to be like music with no lyrics, or like Tony mentioned to me about listening to music with, like foreign music, that way you can't,
so you don't focus on it.
I can't get caught up in it. And I wonder why that is. I don't know if that's an attention span thing, or maybe it's just, as you get older, it's harder to do that. I don't know what the cause of that is. But I'm disappointed because I like doing both.
Well, I do. I have real colorful and distinct memories from being, in high school and what book I was reading and what music I was listening to at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I love it because I'll think of the music and it reminds me of the book and vice versa and all that stuff. And I love that stuff. Yeah.
I used to pair my comics with certain music too. Certain kinds of books, I'd read or listen to certain kinds of music and stuff too,
Huh, interesting.
So yeah, I can't I can't really do it anymore. I've tried a few times, and I find what I do is I get into one or the other, but I can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's almost like I can't have, I can't have both at the forefront. One has to become the background. Whereas before, it was almost kind of automatic. Music would kind of fade. And the thing is, like, I've even tried it with music that I know like the back of my hand. Because I was like, well, maybe, because different times I was listening to newer stuff. I'm like,
newer stuff.
Well, maybe it's because it's not committed to memory that maybe my brain is grabbing it, Yeah. It's like, okay, well, let's go listen to Stone Temple Pilots that I've listened to 1 billion times, or Metallica or something.
Yeah.
And even with that stuff, I can't just put it away. What ends up happening is I'll start reading, and then at some point, a lot of times, my brain will switch over to where the song is just all I can, the lyrics are popping in my head instead. And, so, yeah, it gets frustrating.
Trippy.
But, yeah. And I think a lot of it's attention span, because I have a hard time sitting down reading for a length of time anymore anyway. So I think it's kind of that, is I think it's hard enough for me to just sit and read, let alone bring a distraction into it,
Yeah.
So, but it is something I'm going to try to work on. Like, I'm going to try to read more. And then if I can grow my reading time, then I'm also going to try to do that, because I feel like it's a loss of something I enjoyed,
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a skill, I doubt, but it just feels like something I enjoyed that has gone away,
Or it's even like almost like a healthy habit.
Yeah, right. It's like, it feels like an exercise for my brain.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I'm very big on doing that kind of stuff anyway. I love doing puzzles and different stuff that work your brain and keep you thinking. So it's, that's one of my goals. And I don't know. It may sound weird to a lot of people. I don't know. That's how I tick. So.
Hey, I get it.
Yeah.
There was a period where I just wasn't reading anymore, and I just wanted to get the habit back.
I hate it so much because, first of all, I'm constantly reading. I'm just not reading books. I'm reading blurbs. I'm reading a page, a paragraph. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm always pulling something up. For this show, I'm constantly reading various stuff about mental illnesses or wellness or whatever it's about. For Salty Language, I'm generally reading stuff that I find interesting or silly or whatever, and that's just that stuff. That's not even on my own, just the things that, that pique my interest, And again, with the podcast, I listen to a lot of them bring up a topic, and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to look into that more. So I do. And then generally there's a rabbit hole, So I've tried not to beat myself up too much about not reading, because it's like, you know what? Like, I read a lot. I just don't read books. But I want to read books. I miss reading books.
That's where I was. I was just like, yeah, sure, I could read news articles. I could read, I can dive into Wikipedia. You could get lost in this, whatever, like you're talking about. But it just didn't feel the same as like cracking open a book and finishing it.
See, and that's why I never could get into, I never was able to get into like audiobooks much. It just doesn't have the same feel to me. Like when I get done with it, like listening to podcasts doesn't give me the same feeling as reading a book. So, and that's kind of the way my brain processes it, even though it really, who cares? The knowledge gets in your brain either way. So, but whatever. I think it's more that I feel like I've done something when I read,
there's an accomplishment factor that there's a satisfaction level that I enjoy.
Yeah. And there's a ton of books that I own and haven't read. There's a ton of books on my Amazon wish list that that I want and haven't read. There's, books on my iPad that I've bought and haven't read, so it's like, for a long time I was just collecting books basically, which, I will say is interesting. I've heard on different podcasts from people who are very, successful and intelligent that this is a pretty standard, like pretty common thing. That a lot of people do this, because they're like, I want to get to this at some point. This has got value to me. So they buy it so that they don't miss it later.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like with podcasts or anything else, it's, how far do you bury yourself before you go, okay, maybe I should stop? Yeah. And, when bookstores started going out, I was like, well, this will help my problem, except that Amazon's easier to access than anything, so not so much.
Yep.
But anyway, all of that aside. But yeah, you know what? Something else I did. I forgot about. Actually, I had therapy this week. So, it was a really good session. I was telling her about how I've been feeling better overall since starting the testosterone treatments. It's weird because I feel like my depression, I've seen improvement in my depression, I feel, but I've seen like no improvement in my anxiety, which is too bad because anxiety is the bigger monster for me. But I can fight depression. I can push through it sometimes. Anxiety is much harder to fight for me. So, we were talking about me and driving and whatnot, and she asked me if I'd considered, getting behind the wheel, trying anything. And, first of all, I can't really do much because I don't have, a permit of any kind, and I'm not gonna risk getting myself or anyone else in any trouble for that. But just sitting behind the wheel, I'm pretty sure, I don't think that's illegal as long as the car's not running. I don't think there's any harm or foul there. But it's weird how just that causes me so much anxiety.
Just the thought of it?
Yeah. And I think it's because my head starts immediately running forward. In my head immediately will get to a point to where you're going to hurt somebody. I mean, literally my head is, you'll shoot your eye out, kid. Like it's doing that essentially with it. And even when I reel it back and it's like, I'm just sitting in the car, like nothing's going to happen here, unless it's like freak accident, freak chance. Someone comes around a corner, loses control, like completely freak accident,
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. You're safe. You're fine. Everything's good. You can't hurt anybody here because the car isn't running. You can't do anything to hurt anyone. You're safe. There should be no anxiety in this moment, And again, in my brain, I know it, but for some reason, there's part of my brain that keeps winning that's going, yeah, but you're going to hurt somebody eventually. You're going to get in an accident, and this is where something I mentioned to you before we were recording about about fears and stuff, it's like, I think that's where that's going to really help me because it comes down to, like I've mentioned on here before, it's like, yeah, there is a good chance I'll get into an accident. Almost everybody who drives has gotten into an accident at some point in their life, right?
True.
Doesn't mean it's going to be fatal. Doesn't mean it's going to cause anyone any great bodily harm. I mean, yeah, it could, but, doesn't mean it will, and it doesn't mean it's going to be soon. It could be 30 years down the road. It could be 40 years down the road when I'm senile and I just forget how to brake and just run into a tree, you just don't know. And because I don't know, I quit giving that power, and again, it's stuff we've talked about here. It's stuff I know, but for some reason, like, remember I was talking about working out, like how for my head, I'm willing to do kind of whatever to try to fix what's gone on. But like for getting into shape, it's like, I know what to do, but I just can't do it, and it's the same thing. It's like with this, like I know what to do to really help myself, because no matter what it is, it's like, my therapist told me when you're sitting in that moment, if you feel fear or whatever, is break it down. And if that still feels like too much, break it down again and just keep doing that until you can reasonably deal with it,
Yeah.
So, I go back in a month. I'm going to try to sit behind the wheel of a car and see, I'm going to try to do it more than once, and just see if I can be comfortable behind it. Because honestly, even if I even if I never drive, it's something I'd still like to get comfortable doing. You know, like, or even if I got to a point that I got my license and never drove, you know, just, okay, I got it. I think just getting to that point would be such a victory for me mentally, you know, because it would be conquering a massive fear of mine, you know. So that I told her that's my goal. Cause I think I'm at the point now with therapy in a lot of ways that I think it's time for me to go, this is what I need to do. Help me get there, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like
that makes sense.
I kind of feel like I'm past the point of just going in there saying this is what's wrong. I think I'm more at the point of, okay, you've given me a lot of tools. We've talked a lot of stuff. Now it's time to start trying to apply and move toward goals, you know? And I think she kind of agreed with me when I kind of was saying that to her. So
that's cool.
Yeah. You know, so that's the big thing out of that. 'Cause I'm super nervous about it. Just even, like I said, just even thinking about just sitting behind the wheel, man, I get nervous. I get uncomfortable, like twitchy, you know, and she even mentioned to me, it's something I didn't even think about. This is how much I'm focus on the fear instead of just whatever else is, she's like, turn the radio on and focus on, you know, just distract yourself with and I never even thought of turning the radio on.
Yeah.
That's how into the fear I am. You know, something that's
Well,
so simple, like duh, you know?
Yeah.
But I couldn't, you know. So I will say this, I looked the other day to see if there was any, driving, simulators around. Because I know there's places that have them where you can like sit in these things and it simulates driving. And I've seen online where people with like my situation or who have had traumatic car accidents or whatever, like they can help them get back behind the wheel essentially. And I was like, man, that'd be so cool if there was one close here, even if I had to pay out of pocket for it to be worth it.
Yeah.
Because that would give me the visual of succeeding that would give me maybe that first step that allow me to, okay, I feel safe in a car now. I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, now let's drive around the block, you know, but there's not one close. So, of course. So,
how far away is it?
I think the closest one's a couple hours, which isn't that far. Don't get me wrong, but it's still
a couple hours
especially when I don't drive, you know.
Yeah. There's a whole list of, exactly.
So, and I didn't see the price, you know, who knows? It could be cost prohibitive too, you know.
Yeah.
As much as I'll pay for it. And it's like, it's $500 a session.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, thank you.
I guess I won't. Can I stand out here and watch? Like, yeah. But, you know, I'll keep looking at that though. Like if anything gets closer or whatever, that's certainly something I would look into.
Yeah.
I really wish there was something closer that did that. 'Cause I think that would be really beneficial for me. I think that would be a huge, huge help, you know. I also talked to her about the idea of maybe going through hypnosis for that, to see if that would help. You know, and she was kind of like, okay, she's like, you know, we can talk about that, you know, some more. And, you know, 'cause I told her, I said, basically at this point, I'm willing to try pretty much anything, because this fear of this has controlled, like it totally has taken control. Like I have no control in driving a car like that, you know, in that category. I have given all of it away, you know? So if anything can give me some of that strength back, it's worth it to me, you know? But yeah, of course I'd have to make sure the insurance will pay for that, 'cause I don't know if that's considered traditional treatment, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah, or not, yeah.
Yeah, quality of life stuff, all that kind of garbage, but whatever. But I liked it. I felt good coming out of there again, because again, discussing plan and solution.
Like,
action-based, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, what I've been wanting to do for a while now is I've wanted too. It's like, okay, you filled your head with how and all the tools and all. It's like, okay, at some point you got to put them into play.
That's it.
You know, at some point you can't carry any more tools on the tool belt. You got to start using them. You know, like you have to get in there and try. So.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the whole thing always was with all the 12-step program kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, we're in here learning it, but it all gets applied out there. You have to go out in the world and you have to put it to use.
Yeah.
Sitting around and this is just basically sitting around theorizing.
Exactly.
That's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's really like waiting for the right time or, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, it's like now is the right time. No matter, like we've talked on here before, it's about, you know, cause like with us, we both kind of feel that, you know, you're where you're supposed to be. And it's like, now is the right time. The outcome may not be what you want, but as you said a little bit ago, like, let's stay out of outcomes. Let's just, you know, now is the right time. Let's do what's best for us now. And you take what happens and then you take what happens and you take, you know, and that's it. That just alleviates so much stress. It gives away so much of that grip that we've fought for years to, you know, maintain because we thought we had control.
Yep.
You know,
it's true.
One of my online friends told me the other day that I can't remember what it was. There was something that they really always were controlling about. And they were like, you know, they're like, the other day I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to let whatever. And they're like, oh, it was so freeing. And I was like, yeah, I was like, start looking at other parts of your life. You can do that too. I'm like, I'm not saying just be like, totally, you know, screw it to everything. But I was like, there's a lot of things you'll see that you can let go or ease up on and it'll make a huge difference. So that's good advice for anybody.
It really is just a little bit like anytime that for myself, I surrender is basically it. And a friend of mine always describes this. He's like, in a traditional sense of war, surrender is you're putting yourself in the care of somebody else. Yeah. You know, when they in times of war where there was still some honor in war and the people, they put their guns down, they put their hands up, they raised the white flag, they walked across the field, they were taken care of. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't the end. Right. It was just a continuation. And so, and I always liked the way he phrased that because to me, in my experience, that's when I surrender, it's a transition. Yeah. Like I said, that whole idea of just quitting fighting.
Yeah. I just, the one thing you said to me that always pops in my head, I don't know how many times, is that let go or be dragged. Like, you know, it pops in my head so many times where I'll be thinking about something and I'll be like, no, it's got to, and it'll be like, no, this is you trying to control something again. And it's like, just let it go. Let it go. See, just, you know, let it happen. Like you said about the council meeting, you know, just, you could grab on that, try to control it all you want, and whatever. You might make something worse, you know? So
you never know. Yep. Yeah. That's it.
Just leave it be. So anyway, now that I've talked for like 6 years, so our topic for tonight is something that I heard on the Tim Ferriss show, which, if people aren't listening to that, it's not like it needs more listeners, but, I mean, he's doing okay. But it's a really good podcast. I mean, I'll be honest, I pick and choose a lot of times. Like, there's guests that sometimes I'll look at and be like, I don't have any interest in what they're talking about, and I'll skip. And there's been some where I've skipped, and then like Tony or someone else online or whatever will be like, no, you should go back and listen to that, you know, and, each episode seems that there's just always seems to be some little nugget of something that he does or the guest does that you're like, oh wow, I never thought to do that kind of a thing. And whether it's being successful in business or just in your, you know, cause he also is seeking, you know, wellness, like mental wellness, but just overall wellness, you know, so he talks a lot about that on his show, you know, so you may get a lot out of it. So definitely, you know, check it out if you get a chance. But he said on one of his episodes that some of the best advice he was ever given was to take a breath before responding. In that most of the time when we're listening to people, we're really just waiting for them to stop so we can start talking. Like we're not really listening. Also, by taking that breath, by that pause gives you the opportunity to have a split second to think before it comes out of your mouth, which may save you so many times. It actually gives you, to some extent, the opportunity to do the thing like you've mentioned before, Henno, doesn't need to be said, was it by me, doesn't need to be said by me now. Did I miss one? I feel like I missed one.
That's it.
Okay. So, that kind of gives you that quick second there to maybe skip that. And Tim Ferriss actually mentioned that there's been times where that pause has given him the ability to go, you know what? I don't need to say that, and so many times in life that not saying something makes a huge difference in a conversation, because that one time you don't judge someone, that one time you don't, I told you so, or, those kind of things. Sometimes that can make all the difference between someone feeling like you understand versus feeling like they're only getting judgment out of you. But, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just that classic thing of like, doing nothing is also an action.
Yeah, right?
Saying nothing is also an action,
As Jen likes to say, it's a choice. You can choose to just be quiet. But it says, in communicating, there are a number of elements involved in order to be successful. For example, you need to listen, use proper tone. That one's very important and probably not said enough. And use the right words to clearly convey your message. While these elements and others are all important, I want to focus in on one today, taking a breath. What am I talking about? Taking a proverbial breath amounts to nothing more than pausing before you respond to someone. Why is this important? Taking a breath will, first of all, ensure you heard the whole message. If you respond to someone without taking a breath, chances are that your mind was formulating your response while they were talking, which means you may not have heard their full message. Have you ever noticed in conversations how many times someone will say something to you and you immediately respond?
Oh, yeah.
With a question asking them something that was in what they just said. And they're like, I just told you. If you pause, it helps eliminate that. Which can help eliminate fights, because I've, been in them, seen them plenty of times where people be like, because it makes people feel like you don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Because you weren't, or all the words haven't quite filtered in yet, Yep. That pause gives all the words a chance, your brain a chance to process all that. The next one is formulate a better response. By understanding the full message and giving yourself a moment to think, your response will likely be more thoughtful, clear, and pertinent, which in turn will be more readily accepted and will lead to a better overall conversation. Right? That's exactly.
That's true. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is if this is a change for you, because these are some changes that I've tried to do with conversations I've had. Mm-hmm. Typically, the person that I'm having a conversation with, it's someone that I've known for a long time, mm-hmm. and they'll all of a sudden ask me what's wrong. Yeah, because I'm acting differently, mm-hmm. and then I'll say, well, I'm working on my listening. I'm working on pausing before I speak. I'm working on allowing some space, to really, to understand what you're saying. And what's fun about that is it does exactly that. It elevates the conversation in a way that makes that other person like, oh wow, this is great. You're actually really putting, some effort into this. Yeah.
As soon as I heard Tim Ferriss, describe kind of what he was meaning by this, and again, it's, that he didn't create this, but, it hit me that I think this is in a lot of ways why therapy feels so different than talking to someone else. Because think about it, when you sit down and you talk to a therapist, they do these things. They sit and they listen. They don't talk over you. They generally don't interrupt you. They listen. They pause. They respond, usually with not a full whatever, and they don't make it about themselves.
Yep.
It's still about you and what you said. And, you know, and then their comment will be to basically get you to comment again.
Yep. It'll be questions.
Yep.
It'll be directing you, you know.
Yep. So you feel engaged and that they're listening because all of their questions are relevant to what you've just talked about. Right? So I think this is why, like I said, to me, therapy feels so much better for conversation's sake as far as, you know, certain things, you know, than talking with other people. And again, no judgment. You don't get judgment from them, you know. At least if you're going to a good therapist.
Yeah.
If you do get judgment from your therapist, you should seek out another therapist or quit doing whatever it is that you're doing. Stop being naughty.
That's funny.
Me and Heno are giving you judgment face right now. No. The next one on here is help you not say stupid things. Pausing to formulate a better response helps you from filling the empty space with rambling or stupid comments. Don't say dumb things. This is a great one. Because if you utilize this at like parties, social settings, this will help you a whole lot. Not just be like, you know, and have everyone look at you and be like, okay, you know.
Also, there's the part where, depending on who you're having a conversation with, and usually if it's a conversation where pausing is going to be beneficial, it's probably not a casual conversation.
True.
And so therefore, if it's not a casual conversation and it's about, it could be a hot topic, there's always this feeling of like, especially with arguments, with winning or something like that. And there's nothing worse than just serving up a softball to whoever you're talking to.
Right. Yeah.
And just saying something that if you'd have taken a moment to maybe, give it a little, don't just ramble and fill in the silence, but actually think about it first and say, okay, what is that, how does this prove a point? Is it clear? Is it whatever it is? You don't just offer somebody something to just smash it out of the park.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Cause you're right. It is super easy to do when you're emotional like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, oh geez. Why did I say that? And then,
did I just really say that? Yeah.
Yeah. Or you say something contradictory to something else you've said, whatever.
That's it too. Yeah.
So, it's just good for you anyway. The next one, demonstrate maturity. Having a thoughtful response and not saying dumb things helps others see you as a more mature communicator and thinker. It also demonstrates respect to the person that you are communicating with and showing that you are really giving thought and consideration to your response. Perfect example on this one, job interview. When you're asked a question at a job interview, don't pause too long because you don't want them to think like you're like, duh. But, a pause before you respond makes them think you're thoughtful. Yep. That you're like,
you're considering.
Exactly.
Yep.
You go,
Yep.
And then your answer. And really with anything, it does help you seem more mature, or different, like Heno said. Like, what's wrong? Why are you acting that way? It is weird, isn't it? You do these things that do make you a better conversationalist or listener, and people are like, "Why are you doing that?"
Seriously, I had a friend of mine over the phone saying, "I said, I'm working on being," because it got quiet all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's like, "Are you still there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still here." He's like, "Okay, it just got really quiet," and I'm like, "Well, I'm working on being a better listener and not just jumping in."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Cool."
Yeah. I've done that too, where the person will get, they'll say something and I won't respond because I'm just listening. I'm waiting for that. Like, is this the end of the story, basically, and they'll be like, are you still there? Kind of a thing like that too. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm listening, and oh, okay. And then they'll keep talking, it is because most of us don't do this, is something a lot of us need to do is, close your mouth and open your ears. The last one, or on this list thing here, says it calms you down. Pausing and taking a real breath will help you physiologically. Taking a breath introduces oxygen into your body and brain, which will help you stay calm and improve your thinking processes. Which, hey, imagine that. Breathing is important to calm you down. I feel like we may have said that before. But it's true. Again, like you were saying, in a heated conversation or argument setting, this could be very helpful to where also you may not say something you did not mean to say. Let alone the softballs. But, this may also keep you from saying something really hateful or whatever. Or may not, whatever. Nope. Yeah. Depends on who you are. You do you. You do what you boo. Oh, man. That's interesting.
One thing,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that's also useful if not everybody's comfortable with this type of silence.
True.
It takes a little practice. And so sometimes if you're not really comfortable just stopping and having especially if you're in front of people or you have somebody looking at you, you feel the kind of the pressure to I have to respond right away.
Yeah.
So one thing that you can do is have a device to help you with the same process, like a bottle of water.
Yeah.
You unscrew that cap, take a little draw off of that, screw that cap back down, and respond. And there's your breath, glass of water, that kind of thing like that. Something that'll give you an opportunity to become comfortable with the idea, but still keep yourself kind of doing something.
Yeah. I will say this too. If you are physically taking a breath, try not to make it obvious. That way the person doesn't feel like you're going,
yeah. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah. Also hyperventilating, probably not good.
Yeah,
either.
probably no good. Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
So, it also mentions in here that, if you've paused, thought, and still don't know what to say, don't be afraid to say, let me think about that and get back with you, or let me take that back and look into it, or some variation thereof. This gives you additional time to formulate a proper educated response, which is usually appreciated more than an immediate, half-formulated, somewhat coherent response.
Yeah. I think that's great advice too. It's one thing that this is also very difficult, especially for anyone the people pleaser.
Yeah.
And where you want to have an answer for things, and sometimes just saying, I don't know, but I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Or let me get back to you on that one. And that can even work on your own feelings. There's nothing wrong with saying, if somebody asks you questions, just say, I've never really thought about it, and, maybe I'd appreciate if you could give me some time on that to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, that means you're listening, you're acknowledging the fact that, that you've heard the question, and you're giving it weight.
Yeah.
Rather than just dismissing it outright and saying, well, I don't know. I have never thought about that. And this encourages communication and further communication on a topic, especially, and it gives the impression that you're still willing to talk about it by saying, I don't know, what does it matter anyway? Or I've never thought about it is dismissive and puts, a premature end to something.
Yeah.
That's not going to help somebody feel like you're willing to engage.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, because even if you know you're going to say no, you could even do this a little bit so that really it makes the person feel as though their thoughts are being considered, that you're not just immediately like, no, that's stupid and move on, or something.
Yeah.
Like if you, like you said, just be like, give me a little bit to think about that. I'll get back to you. Just that much. The person walking away is going, even if they, whatever, they're at least thinking that you're going to think about it, and
now I know.
Good.
I was going to say, I want to throw in the Jen angle on here with her constant, her thing that she's expressed on here, many times, the idea that she wants to have some sort of a lesson in a conversation or some sort of, that it's not for naught, that whether it's an argument or whatever it is, that there's something that is to be gained or learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't know if it would satisfy her, but I would think that by saying, that's a really good point, that's something I'd like to think about, would help with that idea of that there is something worth it from this.
Mm-hmm.
That it wasn't just a useless argument or something that went nowhere.
Right.
That you're able to learn something and say, I think, I agree with you. I have a tendency maybe to do that. Let me, give me a day or two to think about, something, however it is.
Sure. Yep.
There's never anything wrong with saying that. And that's the long pause, but the long pause is just as good as the short pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And especially if you have the time to do that, it's not a bad idea anyway, make sure you've thought out your decision or response or whatever as well. It's, sometimes just, going with whatever jumps in your head first isn't the best decision. So.
Yeah. Like that other point about it, the second bonus point, if your communication is heated or emotionally charged, don't respond until you've calmed down. And, that's the one thing, that's the difference between, acting and reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I bring up a lot is when typically when we're emotional or we get, hot about something, I compare it to like going into a boxing match with one arm behind your back and just, walking right in face first because you've given up your sense of reason.
Yeah. When
we get angry, at least for myself, I give up my sense of logic and rational thought when I'm angry. I am just reacting.
Yeah.
I am no longer acting.
Yeah, and most of the time you're just looking for something to attack, like really, like you're just waiting for whatever they say so you can just leap. And it's you're not really having a conversation anymore,
No, and it leads to victim, feeling like, that you're a victim. Yep. Or defensiveness, constant defensiveness. It keeps you out of solutions.
Yeah.
It can, all those other points that were made in the beginning, like helping you not to say stupid things. Well, that's right out the window. Calm you down. That's out the window. Yeah. Maturity. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so that's why I think it is really important that this whole concept of that, mentioned a lot in 12-step programs is restraint of tongue and pen.
Mm-hmm.
And it really goes a long way to that, just that idea of, pause is an action. We talk about it all the time because, it comes back to this idea of like, you can, are you the Rock'em Sock'em robot where, button pushed on chest, head,
Yep.
It's like, maybe pause first before you, respond if you're that type.
Mm-hmm.
And give yourself and other people a chance to have at least to have an effective communication.
Yeah. And it's a great point. Actually, it's funny you say the restraint of, tongue and pen, even though it's not technically pen, but, this article does mention various, situations with like email at work as well, or just email in general, or I would even go the next step now, cause this is an old article. Text. Same thing. If you're mad and someone texts you, cool off, don't answer for a little while, or like it said there, just be like, whatever, just try not to be, pause, try not to say anything you don't mean, that kind of stuff, and don't strike out just for striking out's sake. That, because a lot of times people after conflicts, whether it's an argument or whatever, a lot of times people get back to where they're okay. And if you say stuff like those, really mean and hurtful things, those things will keep coming up, and that just makes your life worse down the road. Yep. Why create potholes down the road, So,
yeah. One of the things that I've learned kind of the hard way was, when I wasn't in a place to really listen and analyze conversation, I wouldn't realize why like arguments went astray or conversations got out of hand or, things, because I wasn't in a place to really analyze what was happening or even think about it. And because it was all about those emotions.
Yeah.
And when I finally, it took a long time to start learning some tools and to pick out when people start to distract from the topic, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And like if I'm in a fight, like, and I'm fired up emotionally, it's easy for someone to start leading me down another a sidetrack, right? Because they don't want to talk about maybe the main thing, because maybe it's putting them on the defensive. So what they do is they turn it around,
right?
And they push it back, or they distract with something else. So they bring up something else. And when I'm in a good place and I'm willing to pause and I take my time, I can go, okay, no, wait a minute, we're not talking about that. Let's get back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And resolve that first. I'm willing to talk about this other thing, but let's first deal with this one.
Right.
And then we can once we're done talking about how you were a total jerk, then we can talk about how I'm also a jerk. But let's work on this one first.
Yeah. Because you're a bigger jerk, so let's just get this.
Yeah, because I'm willing to acknowledge that, I have a certain level of jerkiness here,
yeah.
But
your problem's way worse, so let's get yours out of the way.
Way jerking it harder than I am.
Oh, man.
Let's keep things in perspective here.
Yeah. Because we both know, any conversation or argument is only about one thing, and that's ending it with, pointing out how right you are. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. Because, anytime you assume, it makes a jerk out of you and no, you're just a jerk.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. That's it. That's all you needed right there.
Great talk. I loved it. This is good. Very constructive.
I like this one too. That's why I said when I heard, when he pointed that out, I think he said it before on, other shows, and it just, sometimes things, you'll hear stuff sometimes, and then something will hit you, and you're like, this is the time I needed to hear that. That's, and that's just what it was, I think, is this time it was like, hey, listen to this. I'm like, oh yeah, good point. So, So I guess, if you want to continue the conversation, you know what to do, I guess, Jen says. So, you can, check out our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can email us if you'd like to at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. Jen can be found on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life with a G, that's Jen with a G, or at Dits with D Tits, which is much harder to spell. Her username's in the show notes if you need it.
Yeah.
Henno, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter. And, if you haven't, taken the dive into the Salty Language podcast and, want to do it with more Henno, check out this last week's episode.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Again, not safe for work though. Just make sure we'll warn you.
You get the other side of me.
Yep. You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find the other podcast I'm part of at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. We've already warned you that it's not safe for work. You can find our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast, which more people should go join. or don't. Be a bunch of jerks, whatever. It's cool. We'd really appreciate it if you, whatever way you get your podcast, if they have rate, review, subscribe options, if you would use those, please. Or if you would, use like or share buttons on some of the apps, we would greatly appreciate that as well. Or if you would just share our Twitter posts or our Facebook posts or, whatever, it would really help us out. And we'll be your bestest pals. You can also find us on we're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at Tangent Bound. Man, I am just losing it now. TangentBoundNetwork.com. So go check out other podcasts on there. You may find some other good stuffs over there that you like. Whew.
You got through it.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even mention this on the other part of the show, and people are probably already turned off, but I'm going to say it on here too. I mentioned on Salty Language that to kind of help, with costs and whatnot for the show, if anyone wants to send or donate any cash monies to us at our Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/saltylanguage, any amount, $5 or more, will get a drawing from me. The more you donate, the more effort I will put into it. And if it's enough money, I might
just love that.
And if it's enough money, and maybe I'll get Tony to throw something in on there too. So, we would.
You sure about that?
Oh yeah, dude, Tony can draw, dude.
I'm just talking about you leaving it open like that Tony will throw something on there.
Well, I mean, if the money's right.
I mean, people might get something they just didn't expect.
Well, that's all right. I mean, listen, if you've listened to that show, you know what you're getting into.
That's true.
But we appreciate anything anyone can do to help, or whatever. Like I said, just to, help us pay the bills and what have you. So, yeah. I almost said, and with that, and went into the Salty Language ending.
I almost did too.
No, not so much.
In my head.
No, what I need to say here is if you feel you need help, please seek out help. Call a friend, call a suicide prevention hotline number. Try not to be alone if possible. And also if, let's all try to reach out to people that we know that, obviously the ones that have gone through recent hard times, but also, the other friends that you haven't talked to in a while, the ones that tell you they're fine all the time, just anybody, and reach out, tell them you love them, tell them that you were thinking about them, make sure they're doing okay. Let's just do what we can to put some more good vibes out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired of all the hate that's just circling around. So tired of it. So there. All right.
So hand out some hugs tomorrow.
But only if they're consensual.
And live your omelet.